Okay, the recording is on. I don't see the screens, however.
You don't see the screens at all?
No. Yeah, I should re-enter to
Oh,
see them. They're green for me. It happens sometimes.
yeah, yeah, it might be there. I
Oh.
disconnected and reconnected to you. That might work. You
Uh-huh.
see it now?
Yes. What are you doing? What's the chat? What's the chat research?
So it was Chat GPT.
Yeah, I
Right
recognize
before
it.
you came back, I told them to could define collective consciousness to us.
Nice. Collective consciousness, it's not very clear to me, but I'll try to read it. Collective consciousness is a term used in social sciences, philosophy, and psychology to describe the beliefs, something
Share
shared beliefs,
beliefs. Yeah,
values, and customs. Oh, I think we mentioned it yesterday, right? I think
right.
somebody mentioned that. Behaviors and artifacts that characterize a group of society. No, I lost it again. There you go.
Okay.
Okay, a group and the way the group understands itself in relation to the world. Collective consciousness can also refer to the shared emotional and symbolic experience that bind individuals together,
Bind us together.
yeah, within a group. That's interesting because like it matters how large the group. Hey, Mardos, where? Oops, sorry, that's my dog. Yeah, I'm wondering how large the consciousness like groups are, because the larger the group is, the more challenging it becomes. I think that's why we naturally arrange into states and governments, because the more people you have, the more difficult it is to manage those groups and to have some kind of structure to provide order. I think. I think governments were created for mainly, I think, for safety, right? For acquisition and safety of those acquisitions. What do you think? Why do we need collective consciousness? This is interesting. If we talk about governments, why do we need governments? And we can. I always try to go back in the evolution of things and try to understand what was their purpose, and try to imagine the period of time when they appeared. So I think collective consciousness is about to emerge because the timing is almost, getting prepared, getting ready for this moment um, of
Yeah, it
changing the
does seem like there's
paradigm.
been a lot of build up. Yeah,
Yeah, I've been
and
following.
you can see it across industry and everything. Like
Yeah,
what's
I
happening.
a couple of days, well, almost a week ago, I actually went to visit for a birthday party, and I met some interesting guy who's a quantum psychologist. I'm like, what kind of combination is that? Quantum psychologist. Like, first time I heard that, I'm like, this sounds like some, charlatan,
Sounds like some crazy
promotion.
shit.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, I was a little bit skeptical, and I said that to a birthday boy, and he said, "Okay, you'll see him, and you can ask your questions when he arrives, and you get to know each other." And we had a very interesting conversation where I thought that, oh my God, this guy knows a lot of stuff that we've been talking about. I mean, in terms of parallel actions and parallel development, he has been, traveling all over the world trying to get to his truth in psychology and all those spirituality areas, esoterics, for 15 years. And I was curious to hear from an expert, the perspective of social change and the way our consciousness is, compared to quantum mechanics and quantum physics. I'm like, wow, that's interesting, and it kind of intertwines with a lot that I've been thinking about for years, and for a lot past maybe 4 years or something. And I found that there are many interesting ideas, and that kind of falls into the picture, the paradigm that is about to emerge, I think. Because in science, you see that physics has moved to the quantum mechanics, which is really bizarre. And we started
Right.
having some technologies based on that, including quantum computer, which uses not only a binary system with zeros and ones, but also can use the trapped atom, electron, I think, to code for the superposition. So that opens like a whole universe of opportunities for calculation. And that's really curious how that's going to end up. So that's what you see in technology and science. And when you talk about psychology, I think psychology is such a new area of development because neuroscience is also very young science. And these are like some things that inevitably will be connected to the paradigm in science and paradigm in technology, because MRI is one of the first tools that allows us to analyze the brain. So that way we can figure out which parts of the brain are responsible for different things. So we've had this idea in neurology that different parts of the brain actually are responsible for different kinds of activities, right? We had this conversation, right, about human brain. I don't remember. I think that we never recorded those events, but I actually shared a lot about the brain and its structure, how it works, and what different parts it has. And it particularly, some curious facts about the brain is that my speculation about it included. So the brain has two hemispheres, the left and the right. And it's curious that they have they're not symmetric. They're not the same. They both have different structures. Of course, everybody remembers this, right? Like a popular news to that from science, that the left part of your brain is more about, calculation, about logic, about, abstract thinking in terms of development, external development, extensive development, almost male development of the new age, right? Not in new age, I mean, in that meaning, but the new era of our development in physical terms, I mean, in our body. The evolutionary acquisition is in intelligence. It's relatively new, and mostly the left part of the brain is responsible for that. The right part and also language is acquired, and basically two centers that are responsible for language are located in the left part of our brain. The right part of our brain is more about holistic understanding and about images and about like holistic ideas. And for example, when you talk about appearance, it's something like that sees the person in a big picture, right? And it's curious that these two parts are synchronized through corpus callosum. It's like a very large mass that actually unites. There are just four of us. Maybe we can gather a little bit closer to each other. I love the globe, so I try to get as close as possible to tell it to the whole world. Okay. And yeah, I think that, yeah, that's an interesting fact that kind of makes me think about the nature of this connection, because some people who have severe epilepsy, including those parts with corpus callosum, and if that epilepsy is caused by the dysfunction of that synchronization, sometimes what they do to get rid of that heavy, crippling seizuring, right, that people have with epilepsy, what they do is they have the dissection of the corpus callosum. So that way they break this connection and break this synchronization of two hemispheres. And the small percentage of people who have this surgery, after that, they might have the alien arm syndrome. Have you ever heard about it? Of it?
No, I haven't heard of that. What is that?
It's really funny. Your left arm starts acting as if it's not your arm. It does its own thing. It's like it doesn't obey sometimes. Some cases can be severe and it's very funny if you find some videos. But it's just like so curious that people with such, I think it not even people with such dysfunction, but also some like average selection of people were involved into one research where they had a little fence. Is that the right word? I don't think so. It's like the word, doesn't matter. So there's a table and there's a fence that kind of separates your left part and your right part. So your left eye sees only like part of this table, like the left part of it, and the right one sees the right part of it. So Just curious how they like. I don't remember exactly how they had the table, but it was interesting that the same screen would ask both parts of your brain the same question, and two different hands would give two different answers. Isn't it hilarious? Is like how they ask you like, "What's your favorite color?" And when like the right part of the brain uses the left hand to grab the color it likes, and vice versa, because it's crisscrossed, right? The hemisphere is connected to the opposite part of the body, and it was
Have you
funny.
heard of
Hmm.
hemisync?
No, yeah. What's that? Can you
Where
explain briefly?
you like sync up both sides of your brain, and supposedly you can like do quantum something when you do that.
Well,
Like
as I
it's some
said, physiologically they're kind of aligned. The problem is that probably the timing, because the timing that is so small that you don't even realize there is some synchronization, I guess. It's just curious that these different experiments and different little facts kind of give me this funny idea that left and part, like right part of the like hemispheres of the brain, are like two different personalities, and we don't notice that because they're so well aligned and they grow together and we train them together, and most people have like a very synchronized activity of both parts, and you don't notice that. But if you think about it, these could be like two different parts of the brain. It makes me remember the episode of the Black Mirror. Remember when the lady, something happened to the lady, and I think she was paralyzed or died or something, and her husband decided to. There was like something like a surgery or a chip. I don't remember what they used. They kind of put the soul and memory of that lady into her husband, so that way he had like two, his main personality and that lady inside his head, so that way they could stay together and all that. And there was a very interesting illustration where she was on the chair in a big room that kind of like reminded me of these two different parts of the brain, as if you have a deaf woman inside your brain who kind of tells you like its opinion, but you can choose to listen or not to listen because she doesn't have too much power, right? She cannot speak, and like only I think one hand is kind of like fully in control, but you can take over the control too. So the situation was terrible because she was, at first everything was fine, but over some time like they started having problems, and after that time he actually decided to have a new girlfriend, and all of that, and it was like such a terrible suffering for the soul that was trapped somewhere in emptiness, right, and isolated from the real life. So yeah, I like the Black Mirror. They always have some nice ideas. So yeah, our brain and our consciousness is like, our brain is a huge mystery. It's when they say that our brain is the most difficult thing in the world, knowing that universe is so crazy difficult, and I'm like, how difficult it should be to understand what's going on in our brain. And if you think about it, consciousness should be more than the brain, in my opinion, and something more than the brain. If you think about it in terms of the scientific, all the cutting edge, research papers and news that I hear, it seems like our body has some terminal that is kind of embedded into it, which can resonate on the quantum level somehow. If you think about the microtubules that you have in your brain, you have in your liver, in some of your different parts of the body, which is also interesting fact to learn more about. But if you think about it, it's something like our body is like a difficult machinery, and our brain is a very powerful computer. But there's something more than that. Like, where's that soul? I'm pretty sure that there is a soul, and I'm very curious about the nature of life as it is, because when do the materials that are dead, they're not living, they're non-organic, when do they become life? It's such a mysterious moment, I think. And life and death is actually a very interesting question, and it's been curious for people for thousands of years, and that's why I think all the religions basically exist, because they serve the purpose of filling the gap that people have when they think about that, oh, I'm finite, where am I going after this? And they kind of invented basically religions to explain that and to give them some comfort. Some of those religions might be true. That's why I try to keep my mind open and try to find some commonalities and some interesting mentions from different religions, and see. I always seek for something that is repeated, right? Because it's like
Right. The
critical thinking.
commonalities over time.
Exactly, yes.
Hmm.
It's like critical thinking. When you read a lot of news, you think, what's the true part of it? What's the 3D picture of this event, right? In my mind.
No,
And
what's the
you,
truth? Yeah.
yeah, you look from different perspectives and find something that is common. And you think, okay, this makes sense. And you kind of get rid of the nonsense that is there also. So you can tell the truth, like approximate truth. So I think with
Right, you
what
can
I.
try to get close to it. I think,
Mhm.
I think we've been given a lot of faculties to use when we think about
We are
our
lucky, yeah.
consciousness in life. Yeah,
We
so
we're
we should use
we're
them.
lucky, exactly. Just last 30 years have been so productive. And if you go further than that, I'm wondering about the nature of the soul so much that I'm curious, what if we experiment and take the brain apart from our body and take it apart, like if you dissect these, elements, is it going to be possible to still register that ghost in the shell, right? That soul that we have. I'm sure it's a quantum effect that our body has, and it's like a terminal that is connected to different worlds, the multiverse basically, of yourself in the first place, and probably some other people as well. And there's a multiverse of realities, like in Rick and Morty, and we are interconnected. But I think that people have different
Right.
sensitivity. Some people are not very sensitive, and they live focused on their real life, right? Physical matter, your body, something like realistic, something that you can touch. So from that perspective,
Right.
okay, dreams and all these, spiritual things, they're curious, but they have nothing to do with the real world, right? Here's the material
They
world,
don't
and
bring value
I
there.
feel more comfortable working with that, right? So that's the mindset. Some other people by nature might have more of a like higher sensitivity towards different stuff. It's because of their I believe that people have some kind of a construction at birth, right? And that kind of pushes them towards the certain way of development, and over time, if they get to the right place to the right time, maybe they can reveal some like potential that they have, something more that has to do more with intuition, with knowing without knowing, right? Without knowledge. I'm a clearly logical person. Like I collect data, I try to use my logic and my critical thinking to figure out what's going on. And I also like try to stay curious. Ah, there, she's talking on the phone. So I try to use my curiosity to also elaborate on the same stuff that I see, like put all the elements on the table, right? And like draw in my mind what like where they come from in time, and try to create trajectory of what's going to happen in the future, right? Because for
Right.
example, there are some ways that we can predict easily by just saying what was our past, because our mind is basically, our brain is actually a time machine. Why? Because we have frontal cortex that allows us to travel into the past and into the future. Our memories are our past, and like they are changeable, so that way there's some physical artifacts that we try to leave like after ourselves, for example diaries, or like different accounts, and different like everything, the material trace of our existence, so that way we can just kind of compare those two points of view, your own point of view, how you remember things, and how they were written from a different perspective, right?
Right.
So curious. Yeah, so many ideas, but I'm sure that we are something more than just bodies. I believe, and I think that we're going to face a very interesting and difficult period in the nearest future. I think it's going to be so near that we are already into that. Because 30 years ago, many things happened. The 90s were somewhat a productive period of time. The new country was born where I live right now. Russia is a new country. It's just 30 years old. That's why it's so crappy, basically, because we didn't have that stability, and all the resources were just, we started our history with debts. So that's kind of like, frustrating, because it took so much time to get to some level where people are not shooting, in the streets, anybody they want, because there's no police, there's no nothing. And only the ruins of a great empire with monument. My God, just for curiosity, once in a while, take Google and just Google pictures of like monumental Soviet time architecture. Every time I see those buildings in real life, I want to cry. Like I don't control that. It's just so monumental, so inspiring. They have like all the statues and all the elements on the facades that are how do I say it? They're dynamic. They have dynamic into upward, like into the sky, and they're like inspired. Like they are really inspiring, because you see the movement where they're running, and like they're developing somewhere into the future. So all the figures on those Soviet time like constructions, and like the buildings themselves, they're so monumental. It kind of like it's crazy. And I love how these buildings were built not for some, important figures like a president or something. They were just common places. Like, oh, it's just a place where people could go and hang out together, right? Or play some, something. So, or maybe it was a scientific institute or something. I'm like, that's so cool that these huge buildings were built for people to be around. And I'm like, wow, that's such a different feeling of yourself, right? That's why we like big houses. That's why we like clean places, because we feel different in those spaces. And that's so cool that, well, anyways, my nostalgia about these 2 or 3 things that make me patriotic. Zero things other than that. There are 3 things that make me patriotic about Russia. The Soviet period of cosmos and like development in science, which was a great time. When I read some books about that time, I want to cry like on every line. So bright and so idealistic that period was. Science and like only logic is above everything. Religion is acceptable but not recommended, right? And all that stuff. It's questionable. I think it's just because of the how memories filter bad things and keep the right things. Because when you talk to people about that period, they say, oh, it was very poor times, like we didn't have anything to wear. So in terms of consumption, it was a bad time, but in terms of ideas, it was like a great time. The second thing is monumental architecture of Soviet period, and the third thing is mosaics. Those beautiful mosaics about cosmos and about like space traveling and being together with nature in your families in different nationalities, like all those different places and things. Yeah. I would recommend you guys to. Mm-hmm.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
How do you feel about
Yeah,
what's
go ahead.
happening now? Yes. How do you feel about what's happening now with what's going on in the world today? What are your thoughts on that?
I can tell you, I can talk about it for a long time, because we had like a couple of events about it, about politics, about the.
Well, I meant in terms of Russia and the Ukraine at this
I know,
moment.
I know, I
What are
know.
your feelings of?
There are too many layers to reality, and it's difficult to say, yeah, I'm for, or oh no, I'm against it or something. We're past the survival mindset already. We should understand that the things are more complicated when it comes to big things. I am totally against the dissociation of the Russian Federation from the rest of the world, and how aggressively and stupid some actions were in terms of like how, what's the word? Not rude, but like how unelegant actions were. But on the other hand, I can also understand the logic behind it, because it feels like it's ridiculous what they say in their propaganda. However, if you think about it a little bit further, you think, well, this kind of makes sense, because it doesn't contradict the news that I hear from the West. The West is just like more skilled at presenting information and manipulating the understanding of an average person. So there are many interesting facts that we could discuss, but just the simple fact that it happens closer to our border, and it's because of the NATO broke its promises. I'm like, okay, that I cannot ignore that, because NATO actually, admitted that, and that they had on the territory of Ukraine, they had some strategically dangerous things, and they so Russia retaliated somehow. I judge the how do I say, the way it's been done. I think we're civilized enough to have different level of conversations, but I guess if you start thinking about it, there's been conversations after the Soviet Union was over. I think it was Putin who actually came to the NATO, and he said, NATO was against the evil, right? We're
Oh,
not
I'm
evil.
sorry. I'm sorry. Do you mind if I really have some questions
Sure,
concerning this?
sure, ask
Do you
questions.
think this is just another form of thinking? This like the conversation today is about was consciousness, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Collective.
so
Collective
this boils down.
consciousness.
Right. So this just boils down between Europe, what's going on in Russia and Ukraine and American and German involvement, it's
Mm-hmm.
all a part of what's going on. Just people having their own views on things of what's right and what's wrong. And so the same thing boils down to when it comes to religion and science. And there are a lot of scientists who are religious, but they don't like to say so because of the flack that they would catch because of it. So it's the same thing. There are people who believe they're right, some are wrong, and in this room, I find that when it comes to religion, it's like the big guy in the sky kind of conversation. So that's why I don't delve too deeply into my religious thoughts. It is what it is. And everybody is entitled, truly entitled. I mean, so much entitled to their own thoughts. Some
Mm-hmm.
people think think in the box, and some people like to think outside the box because we find that this box is limited.
Exactly.
Some people think that we are so very progressive, where we should have been much more progressive than we are right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think that they are like gods because they put so much into themselves. Actually, I say that they're kind of like full of themselves. To consider yourself a god. I mean, just yesterday you weren't even here, and now you're here, and tomorrow you'll be gone. So,
Mm.
it's strange. The human mind is very, it could be limited or it could be very expansive depending on where you allow it to go. If you
Exactly.
confine it to a certain way of thinking within the parameters of which we live into this space here. I mean, well, the space into the, some people talk about the universe being God because they can't reach any further than that, as far as, I mean, they can't even see into the universe.
Mm-hmm.
But see, I'm the type of person, I like to reach above and beyond more. I want to know that there's something more. I need to have hope in something. You see, I
Mm-hmm.
need something where there is more hope. This world doesn't offer it. We all know that. We've all reached out in certain aspects and we can't find it here. There's a place in each and every one of us that needs to be filled. And this society right now, it does not fill that particular space that we need. But I'm glad that I found this something. I'll call it something just for the sake of, that fills that place in me that has been missing all my life. People say, "Oh, you're so soft. You need something." Oh, shoot! Don't we all need something? Don't we all need love? Don't we all need care? Don't we all want to trust? Don't we all? Aren't we all looking for the same thing when it boils down to it? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
who of us can say, "Well, I'm independent on my own. I can do it by myself. I don't need this." Yes, you do. You fall apart if you didn't. Some of you rely on drugs and alcohol and the other things, go chase the relationships
Mm-hmm.
or other things. You get to have certain addictions. Yeah, we all need something. So the thing that I have keeps me from all those other things that other people rely on that could cause a detriment to the soul, to the body, to the mind. And this thing that I have, I should say, this someone I have gives me peace and joy and hope, and it inspires, and it gives me comfort and love. So this is why I am a Christian, because I've searched the world up and down and I followed all the rituals and rules and all these other things that have empty promises. They promise so much and they give you really nothing. It's all like the grass is green around the other side. You get over there and find out it's nothing but artificial turf. Promises, promises, promises. It's just a bunch of blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it's made of. It's a lot of
Yeah, I'm
talk,
glad you
but it
found
doesn't, but it,
fulfillment in something, right?
but it doesn't deliver in the way I need it, me, the way
Mm-hmm.
I need it to deliver. It may deliver for other people, and I'm not going to discount that. It may be, uplifting and, good
Yeah.
resource or whatever it gives. But for me, I need something much more than this world. What this world offers, it's not enough for me. I need something more than what this world can offer. Even though
Yeah.
I'm of the world, but I need more than what this world can offer.
I agree with you. This is the main root definition. I think that I some people say that, oh, this you're right that we have different boxes where we put different categories, right? Religions, or maybe Abrahamic religions and these religions, right? Or maybe atheists or people who don't have religions or something like that. And because of that, I it's about focus. Like when people focus on the the form and they don't think about the content of things, of ideas, of deep, like, levels, that kind of shows that they haven't passed the test, where there's a very simple test where it's difficult to explain, but like when you stop asking and start doing, right? Or something like you make your own choices and you know what's right for you. Maybe it's something like self-awareness, like, or awareness of your own consciousness, right? So that you know that for you this thing is going to be particularly good. I think that's the first test that kind of unites all of us. That's why I try to develop kind of the system of education for every person, like, right, to have to know more, to think more, to be able to be open-minded and to have different perspectives to things and to have critical thinking and train your logic. And that's a basis for me where people can, when they can dissociate themselves and the ideas that they hold on to, it's a very good level where it what I'm trying to say is going to be easy to explain in on the example of personal connections, right? I think that you might have as many ideas that are super different from mine, as long as we stay respectful and we can talk about things and we can have clear communication, right? That's the biggest test that people cannot pass sometimes, because they start, talking over you or trying to prove you something, or maybe trying to accuse you of something, that you are disrespectful towards some things, or maybe you're not right about your ideas or something like that. That's the
Well,
test that people do not pass, because they are not able
yeah.
to respect a different person and to understand that.
I've always thought it came
Mm,
from like insecurity or something.
maybe not only
No,
that, but people who, there's also like a certain, how do I say, like a trajectory of changes. Like in the beginning, when you have like a lower level of development, but where you are higher that some low benchmark, let's say, you start thinking that you know it all. You're the only right person, and you don't care about the rest of the people. After you pass that level, and if you continue acquiring experience, let's say, you start understanding that things are not black and white. They're like they're different. Like there are so many different things, that the world is diverse, and there's no
lot more factors,
yeah. And
right or
you
wrong.
start thinking, wow, like as you learn more, you start thinking, wow, I don't know, like I'm not sure about anything anymore, right? Because there's so much stuff and everybody's right, and I can understand everybody, right? And that kind of,
Well,
what do you think?
Go
when
ahead,
I
buddy.
speak, that I make it personal. I make it about myself. I always say whatever everyone else does, as some I said, always use the word first person. I need more. I was looking for more. See, when I came into this room yesterday and I heard you speaking, and you begin to talk about different modes of thought and whatever, and then when you hit point of religion, you kind of dismiss it, oh, some old thing in the sky, whatever. And that's why I didn't want to speak yesterday or say much because of the intro that you gave. So I knew that I'll just go along with whatever mode of thinking is in the room for the moment. But today I says, that's not fair to myself, of who I am as a person. It was interesting yesterday, but when I speak, and even as I speak now, and however a person may present themselves, it doesn't mean that some people are very passionate about their belief,
Yeah,
and
they
a lot
should
of us, we
be.
can
Hmm.
understand that, and they stand strong on it. And a lot of people who are passionate like myself. I mean, I've gone through a lot of rock throwing. I mean, tons of rocks.
Right.
One day I just even stopped and picked up a rock myself and threw it back. I don't know. Don't ask me. I just had to do it. you know. So yeah, in this, like one guy even asked me, I went to a non-believers corner. He says, "Well, why do
Hmm.
you come here then?" I said, "Because I like to hear ideas. See, I am a very intelligent person, and I know people may not believe I am because I believe in God. God God is for some people, it's the most stupidest thing you could possibly do. But just believe in yourself. Look to you. Now I don't want to believe in myself because I've seen myself and I am a mess. So that's out of the question. And I've and I've seen other people and they're a mess too. So anyway,
We're
so
all
anyway,
work
the
in
bottom line
progress.
is this. They asked me, they said, well, why do you come here? I said, because I like to listen to ideas. I like to listen to myself, my old self speak. And when I'm in these rooms, and even right now, I'm listening to my old speak because it's exactly the way I used to speak. And it's interesting for me to sit back, like this globe right here, and to look at the globe go around and around and around. And I am looking at my old self. Everything that is mentioned, almost every thought, every idea, that was me, and I was so in
Hmm.
tune with it. And so every now and then, I like to stop and look at my old self to see where I came from and see where it got me. And I concluded that it was like this globe in the middle just kept going around and around and around.
Yeah,
And
I think this.
I
Hmm.
have to remind myself every now and then, when you become a Christian, every now and then you have to go back and remind yourself of where you came from. Because sometimes we start to look back and we think that there's something to look back at. We think there's something greater. So sometimes we have to go back and look, was it really good? Are you really missing something? So you go back and you look, you say, no, it's like we're saying the same thing, so, but where I
Hmm.
am now, there's growth in where I am. I don't have to imagine what it might be, or I see what it is right now.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's one thing that can be explained. I've entered into this other realm of thinking, and this realm is actually closed off. You can't enter there just by sticking your foot or sticking your hand in there. You really can't enter into there. There's a certain way of coming into it, and you just can't break through it, no matter how intellectual you are, no matter how large your vocabulary and your thinking, you just can't get in there. And I know that to be true because I tried to get in there so many ways and I couldn't enter. But there was a certain way that I had to come, and I wasn't
Hmm.
willing to come that way because to come that way, I would have to be seen as ignorant. I would have to be seen as not closed minded. And God knows I didn't want to be seen as ignorant or closed minded. And so I never entered into that to that place. It came to a point where all my intelligence, all my know-how, all this stuff, it didn't mount up to a hill of beans for me. It didn't get me
Hmm.
anywhere.
Hmm.
So I can
Hmm.
see where I am now, and I can see where I've come from.
That's great. You have to share more because we are open minded and we talk, we express, I personally express only the thoughts that I have. And it's curious sometimes because it happens only in my mind exclusively. I use these events in this open floor to sometimes express myself. Normally, there are more people, so I don't express myself as much. So tonight, decided to use this space to talk more about what I think to understand that better. And what I think is that we are all different, and if we speak about the collective consciousness, it's gonna be the system, like a collective hive or something like that, where every person has to develop themselves, and after a certain point, when their vessel is filled, they have to kind of manifest themselves. Because if you have some passions, beliefs, like, things that drive you, or maybe you have some search of meaning or something like that, you have to express yourself, because you owe that to the world. So you have to have your voice, because the collective consciousness works in those voices. It's like standing in a room full of people and every person sings their own song. And when you listen, you can listen to every person separately, or sometimes you can come up with maybe something synchronized, right? Some people might start singing in sync, and that's going to be the voice of the collective, because the songs that are of the same tune and of the same length, they start creating the choir. Is that the correct pronunciation? And that's going to be the average sum of those, collective consciousnesses. But if you're silent, your song is not going to be heard. So that's what I'm going to try to develop in the community around me, to have people speak, to manifest themselves, to express themselves, to know thyself as much as possible, and to be open-minded to accept other voices. Because when you allow those voices in your world, that creates the space for your expansion, your mindset expansion, and getting deeper into things, and accepting different points of view. I agree with you. I also want to see more than this universe, and I want to see more of that, and like to see the multiverses, and to see different, versions of myself, of other people, of other lives, and all that. And I'm curious about that. But I'm suffering from the fact that the majority of people are focused on such like small scales that it's going to be difficult to stick in their mind like some ideas, because they don't have time for that. I don't judge them. It's just their point on the spectrum, right? Their point in this life, in this situation, and in this universe. But my job and my obligation to the world is to express myself and take it to other people, which is mostly, I feel like I'm a protagonist, like a person who lives its own, like one's own life, and to the fullest. Like you do what you love, and you find more passions in your life, and you try to be in those spheres of life where you want to be, and to express yourself as much as possible. And by doing that, those people who attract to that light and approach me, I would love to share my experience and open my doors for them, and like at least share what I feel and what I know and what I can teach, because some people don't know that. I always have a feeling that everybody knows everything, but when you actually start talking to people and asking them questions, you find out that there's some spaces that you have and they're obvious to you, but they don't know that. So sharing that is very important, even if they don't accept that. It's not your business. Like, you have to shine, and those people who are ready, because they're always a process when some idea gets into our mind, right? We have to hear it first, and then maybe react negatively or positively, doesn't matter. Normally it's just like ignoring thing. Then hearing it second time and think, oh, I heard it somewhere. Then pay attention to it, and then step into it, and then to the last step where you become part of it or something like that. Like, ideas also grow in time, and for somebody you can be that first touch, right? If they need 7 touches for an idea or anything, basically, to get from an unknown area to the accepted area. Sometimes you could be that first or second touch, right? You wouldn't see the result in their any changes in their life. You just spread the information, but eventually, in the bigger system, in the bigger scale, you'll be one of those little nudges that actually helped that person to move towards the better or just different realm, I would say, because it's difficult to say what's good and what is bad. And all I know is every person has to develop and express themselves and to share this passion. Passion and energy is actually the most visible and sensed, let's say, sensed way to figure out if it's working or not. If it fires you up, it's something that is your destiny, right? It's something that you have to go with, and you have something that you have to express and bring to the world. Yeah, if you believe in God, talk about your belief, and that's going to be because you're so passionate about it. I don't have other choice other than being interested in that. I might not become a Christian, but I will definitely be would have like better idea about people who are Christians, and sooner or later they will create this, collective voice of that. So far, unfortunately, religions are. I would speak about Muslim people because they live closer to me, and if people asked me in the past, they would suggest that I'm a Muslim because I live in an area where the people are Muslim. But if you ask like the average opinion about Muslims all over the world, it would be more negative than positive, unfortunately. In the majority of some Western worlds and like some people who do not know closely this religion, only those people who know this religion very well, they would say, oh, it's so beautiful, it's this and that, and it's like so fair and so blah, blah, blah. And when you see such passionate people who are intelligent, nice, interesting, who express themselves, you start changing your opinion about it, because initially the opinion is constituted of those one or two touches that we have. We never go further that. It's the news, and the news, unfortunately, are designed to attract attention. And those things that attract attention,
Well,
they're
it's meant to be divisive.
5 to 1. It's almost always is negative stuff, right? Because negative stuff attracts more attention, sensation, clickbaits. We, unfortunately react to negative stuff more than to positive stuff. That's why when you talk about AI, everybody's like, oh, that's creepy. I don't like robots. I don't like AI, because they know only about the movies, where the movies were created to shock you and to create an enemy, and that's why they think of AI like that. And about any idea, any group of people, any box that we actually mentioned, it depends on like those how many touches you had with it and what temperature it was. Like if the first touch is negative, which unfortunately happens a lot with different things, the whole idea in that person's mind would stay in that temperature. Oh, this is a bad thing. I don't know much about it, but I don't like it. I don't want to be around it. That's what they put in their mind. And that kind of prevents them from knowing more and learning more.
Prevents them from knowing more, right?
Changing that,
Exactly.
yeah. Unfortunately, that's how the information works and the way our minds work. We start changing our opinion only when we start meeting people who are, representatives of this, let's say, group or this box. And if they fall into the picture of what you have before, like, oh, I think this group is this. You meet this person, and if they follow that pattern, you think, oh, okay, that's my stereotype was correct. But if they break your, how do I say, like, your definitions, right? Your predictions, if they break that, and if they
Prejudices.
correct, yeah. And if that happens sometimes, not very often, but I'm sure it's going to happen in the future more and more, because people are going to express themselves more. As I said, this is the most important part for people to find themselves and to express themselves, because that's kind of will create the space that choir of voices that is going to allow us to hear something, to hear different songs, and to hear that one song that is more common.
And one thing I would like to say is that my daughter right now, as it stands, she's in medical school, and she's a Christian, and she caught a lot of flack for that in med school. You know how that goes, the sciences and all. But the thing is, which I respect about her, she can still be interested in the sciences. Her mother, me, I too am interested in the sciences. I used to subscribe to Psychology Today, Discovery,
Hmm.
I used to love Atlas books, all of that, and I got that from my father. It was passed down through the line. So, but people think because you are a Christian that you have no, that you don't, that you're not intellectually able for some reason. You're just looking for a
Because
way
of the
out. No, we're
stereotypes.
always looking for. We love, well, as much as we love God, we also love the things that He created. You see how He creates them. We look forward to one day man will be able to travel to Mars, or to other outer places. Look forward to cures
To
for
be cured.
cancer, and all types of technology and things of this nature. So when we mention that we are Christian, a lot of times there's a great deal of prejudice. We want to separate you from science, but we know that God is this God for us who created science. This is why we love it so much. When sometimes you
Mm,
may hear it said, "Oh, well, science." We're not saying that we don't like science. We're just saying that that's not the number one rule as to how things operate. We're not putting down science because we truly love. I'll speak
yeah.
for myself. I love science. My daughter loves science. My father loves science.
You're a
You
great
know, and he
example of
passed that
believers.
down to me.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so,
Yeah, yeah.
I've always liked to learn. I've always liked to learn new things, about astrology. I had one of those telescopes and things. So, and that will never stop. Will never stop me. I like into different types of things. I like to sit down and have a conversation with my daughter. We discuss, chemicals, and I was the one who, got her started in that. I used to buy her kits, the doctor kit,
Hmm.
studying all the chemical. I forget what you call it now. It's been a while,
Organic
So,
chemistry?
but I also gave
The
her,
lab
you
kits.
know, right, right. I also gave her a foundation as well. It
Hmm.
wasn't just that. There was For me, it was much more than that. So I warned her. I said, "Now, when you go off to college, you're going to be put to the test." And
Right.
sure enough, she was put to the test. But I'm glad that I warned her because I was put to the test. I fell. I didn't have a foundation to stand on. My parents didn't really ingrain Christianity in me. It was like, okay, you pray, blah, 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 that's it. So that's why I knew I had to really teach her and to warn her when you go off to school. And a pastor, a professor wanted to flunk her because you said you can use any book you want. She used the Bible. She had to go to the administrator, have her grade flipped because he said any
Yeah.
book you want. He said, well, you can't use that book because that's not a credible. But everyone else was using Jetty Monster or you know
Right.
or some kind of philosophy, but just don't use the Bible. And that's what I told her then. That's because it's the Bible. I've been in rooms where everyone standing around will give their thoughts about how the world was created, that we came from slime, that we came from monkeys. Why do we have tails? Well, they have tails. Well, they have eyes too. We have eyes, but all kinds of things. The Big Bang, and the room was fine and all together. Like there was like a camaraderie there. Yeah, think that. Yeah, that's good. And what's your thought? Yeah, that's. But once I mentioned the name Jesus, boom, 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 the room collapsed. They couldn't stand up to that.
Yeah,
And you
it's
could talk
crazy.
about anything else in that room, but just don't bring up his name. And so this is why we as Christians sometimes we won't bring up his name. But if we don't bring up his name, guess what? We're convicted. And we may not be able to sleep well that night because God will
Yeah,
convict
right.
us.
Yeah, you
How
feel
dare
something. It
you?
leaves
How
something on your
dare you?
heart.
After all
Yeah,
I've
how
done
dare
for
you not
you,
mention
and you're going to hide because these people are talking about something else. I was convicted because I didn't speak up yesterday. And that's why I'm here today. So I
Nice.
could sleep well tonight.
it?
Nice, nice.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Making those choices is actually, I think that's the main muscle that we, as a humankind, have to develop. Like, stand in for yourself. When nine people around you says that the white pyramid is black, to be brave enough to stand out and say, no, I think the pyramid is black as it is black, and I'm not going to change my mind just because the majority of people in the room say that
So yeah,
truth is not
right.
truth, right? It's false. And I think that's something that is going to be like that engine, that shift that is going to help us to accept each other with all our ideas and come to some state that we can discuss these things, and like we can change and shift our points of view, or sometimes like share them, or maybe augment them. Sometimes I always love this Descartes outcome of every discussion, where you both come out of the discussion augmented, right? Each of you acquire
Right.
something from a different perspective, so that way you can have a broader outlook of things. And respecting other people's opinion is also so important, and it's great. We try to do that here, but like when I speak for myself and more for my conclusions that I have at so far, I might think and I might say some things that I think and what I find logical or not logical and where I stand. So I appreciate
Right.
that Outspace is a very nice platform for that, that every person can say, speak out loud what they think. Because we actually had like few events on
Oh,
religion, on spirituality, and
yeah.
there were like huge
Well, I think
discussions
that
here.
was us
Hmm.
making the space safe for people to express themselves, not necessarily the platform, but more so of your
Yeah,
opinion.
let's hope that we can take that to a different place as well. But yeah, so far I enjoy seeing everybody in the room and discussing these things.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I really find that, like even just having a space where like people like Bernie, who is passionate about their beliefs, can stand on it, and stand confidently with support. Like we're not Christians, but we're gonna let you defend your stance. No matter what, because this is an open but moderated discussion platform. So we do
yeah,
want to hear people share different points of views. Um,
I
there's a
I,
lot
I
of
want to
times people
share.
say stuff I don't agree, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I want to share the. I like to collect some things and share them with different people. Like, and when I talk to religious people, I always tell them that I still keep always in the golden frame in my mind one quote from, I think it was a cardiologist or something. Probably he repeated somebody else's words, but still, he said when I think he shared his thoughts about the transition that he had while he was like, aging and having like a higher professionalism. He said in the beginning, well, anyway, I'll just give you a quote and we can just discuss it. He said, I lost my belief when I started drinking from the cup of knowledge, but I found that faith at the bottom of it. This is the
Right.
exactly the same thing that I
That's
was
nice.
talking about. Like in the beginning, you think I'm smart, I'm cool. Your ego kind of tells you that you are the smartest, and that's why all other people are stupid, especially those people who believe in something, right? Because you don't, well, not even believe, but like those people who are not like you, or maybe they have different opinion, and you think you're the smartest.
Right.
But the more you learn, inevitably you start realizing that it's impossible almost to fathom the world so far because we are not ready for that. We are too primitive for that. We need to really work hard and do our homework, right? To become a better humankind because we are not the best example for our kids, I think, as a collective consciousness
Right.
since
As
we
one whole
yeah.
unit. Yep. As a
So
collective
yeah, yeah,
unit.
yeah.
Yep.
I'm trying my best to become a better version of myself and to be worthy of the future
Well,
that is going to be the
we
best
always
future.
talked about here
Hmm.
that we should be doing self reviews and taking the time to look at who we are, where we come from, and what can we do to get to where we want to be next. So,
And help others from that point
Mm-hmm.
because that's really important.
yep.
Not
When
on,
you feel good, help
and
others.
not only
So,
that,
well, pay
yeah.
it forward.
Not only that, but I'm sorry,
Go
but
ahead,
not
go
only
ahead.
that, we can learn from one another. You know, I've learned a lot from being around people that are non-Christians. I've you know, I've learned a lot. I have a few friends in all space who are gay, and I do know what the Bible says on it. But also, I do know the personal experience I have with these people. I really love them dearly. They've been very good friends. So from that, I know that there is some, because if you want to look at it that way, what the God says about gay people, then you may as well look at what He says about liars. You may as well look at what He says about gluttony. And all in general, what He's saying is that all sin is sin. I don't care. The person who's a glutton can't look on the person gay. The person who's gay can't look on the person liar. Liar can't look at the adulterer. In other words, he's saying no one can look at, and even I myself, I can't. And I've lied, and I may lie again. Most likely, sure, I will something. I don't mean to. It will happen. And even the thoughts that we have in our head, even when you don't not do it, do you lust in your mind? Do you have envy? Do you have strife? So what the Bible is saying, look, none of these can enter heaven. Gay person, the liar, the thief. In other words, I can't in myself. And this is why he sent his son so that we can enter into heaven because we were born into sin. No, and you may not think a little child, they know how to lie right away. You teach them how to. You know, so yes, we were born into sin because all of us in this room, we sin on some level. Some of us more than others. Some of us have a consciousness about it. Some of us don't. You know, it's not a matter of morality. Kill somebody. Well, in some countries it may be okay, but really the bottom line is this: none of us are worthy of what God has to offer, but we are made worthy for that He has offered us something, a way to escape our own sinfulness. And he says, the Bible says, a person who says he has no sin is a liar and cannot see his sin. I'm glad that I could see my faults, but I'm glad that I could see the goodness in me as well. You know, being able to love other people in spite of themselves or in spite of myself. Diversities, you know, to love the gay person, to love the person who's an alcoholic, the drug addict, whatever. You know, because who knows, some of us may end up down that path somewhere down the road, and want that kind of love. Oh, it's all about Christianity. The bottom line, it's all about love and respect, loving our brothers and sisters and
Yeah, I think
respecting
we
one another.
wasn't
Love is
that
the
like
answer.
yeah, wasn't
Yeah.
that I think we did an event on religion and we ended up I think we had a few different people in representation, but I think they all ended up agreeing that love is one of the defining factors across
Mhm.
all their religions. I thought that was neat
Well,
that one day.
Nice. Yeah.
Um,
I think it was one
yeah,
of the most crowded events as well. Myelin has raised his hand for a long time, and unfortunately, I wasn't very attentive. So,
I didn't pay attention.
yeah, we are
oh,
more
I'm
talkative
sorry.
tonight. Didn't have a chance to talk to each other for.
Oh, hello, folks.
Hi, nice to see you.
Yeah, I would like to just talk about uh, the discussion regarding the if if the science and religious is disagree with each other, and during the discussion, like as you said, there are lots of new topics that some might just ignore or do not like this topic, and I believe this is not just a specific issue in religious, but personality, because uh, I have talked lots of topics in science with uh, scientific community as well, and there's still the same thing happens there, and the religious person or who knows science, that everything just comes into just idea that how things are perceived by others, and because e- everyone can see the same, see the issue with the same angle, and and the negative of the reactness of the others will be all the time will be there, and I believe it's never gonna be come for free. Every time will be there will be argument and fight with the topics that we do have, and but it's good idea just to just fight for it. I believe because uh, I've seen several, especially when it comes to chemistry. What I do found is that uh, most of the chemistry students or teachers in my community do not knows the how the community how the chemicists found the origin of the atoms elements. I mean atoms electronic numbers, and indeed this stuff is belongs to a lot more physics stuff, and as a result uh, we humanity just divided the subjects into physics to chemistry. Most of them do not just go over to physics and mix each other, and that's why most of the time there's a gap between physics and chemistry. No, not all the time just everyone understands what exactly going on in some topics, because they all the knowledge just tightly connected between each other. So what I mean is that mm, the there needs to be a good connection to just find out specific angle of the issue. So so and everything will be at least altogether will be solved. Yeah, that's my point.
Thanks for sharing. Always happy to hear from you. Too bad that we never got into the scientific part of things. You actually built such a nice location that we never got to use. Because yeah, I think we could have done the like scientific series about talking about some like more of a rocket science or some like physics or something like that. So maybe it's not too late. We'll see how it goes.
No, still got time. I don't know what happened to having his space for this event. I guess we must have. I think we did a configuration. We had an issue with the configuration because we were doing the events at that space. You made us that purple space. I liked it.
I think it's available, but like it's not maybe not so easy to get into.
Yeah, I like to take that into spatial. That'd be a nice little thing in spatial.
Oh, really?
Hey, Maya,
Yeah.
we should connect on Discord about it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. I downloaded all the photographs that were taken in all space. I have not much information about. Only maybe emails. I think I mentioned it yesterday. So if you guys wanna keep in touch, maybe like send me your emails. You can send them in my personal messages or use that. Is that a clickable form, right? Yeah, you can.
Yeah, that's a clickable form.
Yeah,
all right.
there's the link over here in you see the blue link. You can click on that and you'll have the Google page forms where you can actually go to the browser and leave your like it's like a couple of questions. That's it. It's like to leave your email and yeah, just share your opinion about where we should migrate to, and if you would like to attend my classes, like which I teach to Russian speakers for like the sake of a fun. So you could join like Zoom and see people who actually live in Russia, and you could ask questions and try to share your point of view and teach them because they're very curious. They love. When people come and they have some questions to ask, and we could discuss some questions. It's funny that today maybe it's me, but like we had this class with this group like of advanced speakers. We talked about suffering and death and coping with death. I'm like, yay, good start of the weekend. But it's so cool that they're so developed and in terms of like openness to conversations that they don't mind. They love to discuss like different deep conversations like we have here. So they might surprise you.
Well, yeah. If you open another room and you put the globe, it's just a tidbit of information. Y'all know that the Earth rotates on its axis. It actually doesn't go in this order. Actually, it rotates toward the left.
Yeah, it goes
No,
all
With
the
a
way.
tilt.
Yeah, it goes. I just thought I'd just throw that in. Kind of on a
Yeah.
little tilt there, like on a, tilted and towards the left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's tilted and it's rotating the wrong way too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why I said it rotates in opposite, not the direction it's going.
Yeah, not accurate.
Well, you see, we Christians, we have knowledge.
I was
Share it,
I've
share
been
it.
Christian my whole life, and
Oh, the whole life you've been a Christian?
yep.
Oh, you can't. Okay, here's another tidbit.
hmm
You can't, if you're no longer a Christian, you can have.
I'm still a
that-
Christian.
Oh, you're still a Christian.
Yeah,
Surprise,
I thought you
surprise.
said you were something.
I'm
you're
a
still
Baha'i,
a
I'm a
Christian.
Baha'i as well, but I'm still a Christian. It doesn't change.
You're a what? Did
A
you,
Baha'i. You ever heard of Baha'i?
BHAI?
Yep. BHAI. BAHI. Yep.
BHAI, yeah.
So we accept all religions. Period.
Nice.
So I'm also a Christian, a Muslim. I read from the Bible.
I thought I heard you
Quran.
say you were a Muslim.
No,
I mean,
no.
all of it. I'm a Baha'i.
Well, see,
Baha'i
here's
isn't
the thing
related
with-
to Muslims.
Oh, Baha'i. Okay, so in that religion you can, but in regular I call it regular, in Christianity, being able, it says
We
that there's
believe
only
on the
one way.
interconnectedness. Yeah, they say there's only one way.
Yeah.
Yeah, all religions state
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And then Baha'is believe in the unifying idea that each faith is just a piece of a greater faith, right? So
Yeah.
every
I used to
prophet
believe like
was
that.
a prophet.
I used to
Every
do that, 'cause I didn't
messenger was a
know.
messenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to
But
say
I didn't
all
know that
ways
there
go
was
to
a faith.
God.
Yeah, that's what we believe for real. But there's never been But we believe that it's all been just revelations over time of how to get
Yeah.
closer to God and to faith and to become better as people. We don't
Well,
allow
you
the.
must run into a lot of problems with other Christians because
I run into problems with all
Christianity speaks
forms of religions.
on another level.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so if you're a Christian, then why don't you accept the things that's uh, engra- grounded that's ingrained in
I
Christianity?
accept,
Why do you
right. So I
dismiss
accept
it?
all of it. I don't dismiss none of it. I accept it all. I don't accept modern Christian views on stuff. I accept more of the old style Christian methods, and I read a lot of the Old Testament in my day. So,
See,
like, I
I
don't
don't
agree with it.
understand that. I don't
Right.
understand it because the Bible it doesn't
Allow for
how
that?
can I say it? Yeah, it doesn't allow for that.
Mm.
So
Right.
that's why I
That's
don't
fine.
understand how you could be all of these things. If you're a true Christian, you have to like if I was a Muslim, I have to go according to what the
Right.
Muslims
I mean,
say.
If you're a
I
Christian,
guess
you have
so.
to
I probably
follow
wouldn't call
Jesus.
myself a true Christian, but I'm a true believer in God. So I don't think
Okay,
God
well,
created.
okay.
So if you go back to, if you believe in, for me, I believe in God, and I believe God didn't create religion, man did. So I don't let the religious thing interfere with my relationship with God
Okay.
Almighty. So
I
what
Okay.
agree
I've
with that.
experienced was that,
I agree with
yeah,
that.
right. I experienced in my life that a lot of the different faiths affect your relationship with God. I don't know if they're all positive. So, I did grow up Christian, still believe in Christian principles, but I also just believe in my faith in God so much more. And I think it has been limited by other belief systems in the past. So now I just keep a focus on my Baha'i faith. But I am still a practicing Christian. Like I study with people in the Bible and everything, and whatever it needs to be. We have those
So
conversations.
when you study with people in the Bible, I mean, don't you run into like little
Right. Well,
hiccups along the road?
there's a lot of big issues there with the faith,
Yeah.
with the Bible faith. For me and my belief system, Jesus was a black man. So if I go into a place where they have pictures of Jesus on a cross as a white person, I think that's a blasphemy. I, but that's just my personal opinion. I don't like, the thing about Baha'i Faith, we're not trying to down anyone. We just try to help people do their own research and figure out stuff. So I live in America where religion, Christianity was beaten and oftentimes infused into our families by force. I do love the beauty of the word and agape love for God Himself. So I still promote people learning and finding their way to God through whatever means is there. And that's, if that's Muslim belief, Islamic belief, Christian belief, I just support that relationship of finding God and uplifting your own soul and spirit to a higher plane. But I can't, as a black man in America, I can't subscribe to modern Christianity if they choose to ignore certain facts of the religion. So I choose not to ignore history and the experience of my native people or any of that. So that goes
You
along with the.
sound like the Hebrew Israelites. They kind of like
I mean,
they're
I
kind of
guess
like
that's how
give
they
me that
sound, but
vibe.
that's pretty aggressive. Yeah, they want to fight. So I'm all for love and unity. I'm a hippie, pretty much. So I'm trying to find ways that we can connect without being divisive and having that type of
Mm.
argument. But I do believe in a lot of those same things. I just think we should uplift ourselves and not degrade ourselves to be
But do you
that
find
aggression.
people who believe that's find other people who believe in the Baha'i? Because I'm sure when you get a room full of Muslims, they must have something to say, regarding this because they're very fervent and very
Right.
strong in their
So, yep,
approach.
the Baha'is were hunted down by the Muslims for many years before. Um, but we don't necessarily turn the cheek. We still promote love and peace and unity. So, irregardless of they don't like us
Yeah.
because of what we believe, we still want them to, find love and peace. Like I said, you don't have to leave your faith. It's just learning to accept what the world is and what our current state is. So we believe in an ever progression of God's messengers, including Abraham, Moses, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, and that there has been other messengers over time, and that every so often God sends new messengers to deliver a message for our time. So like the Jesus is like that was before Muhammad. Like in our book, it was Jesus, then Muhammad, and then there's another guy, then there's another guy, and then now we're in a different state of finding new growth in our and just who we are as humans. So
Nice. I
Well,
love that.
and
who's
that's
that person in the picture? This picture over here on the wall? Who is
That's
that person?
that's Mendes. Old version
oh,
of
that's
Mendes.
me, but no, that's not old
Yay.
version.
That's you.
Yeah,
Well,
that was me.
the reason I asked was the conversation. I'm like, wait a minute, that can't be Linda. And if you're speaking the way you speak, and I have
People
Ozzy
change.
speaking the way she speaks, and you two seem to oh, okay. Oh, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? You're not
Right. So
you don't
there's
believe in
no
God and
well, I think Ozzy has a belief system,
Yeah,
but it's
we
not
we we're pretty.
subscribed to typical religion.
Yeah, I would say that I'm
Right.
just agnostic because that's the easiest way to answer questions. Because I think that fathoming is part of the, in my opinion, religion and beliefs. Like, first of all, when people ask about my religion, I say, well, religion and belief is two different things. Oftentimes, I don't have a religion, but I have beliefs, right? And my belief is that it's a never-ending search for me. Maybe one day it's gonna be like I'm gonna come to some conclusions, but nowadays I'm in search, and I'm sure that there is something more than what we have right now because I want to believe in that. But also, I have my own opinion about Abrahamic religions. I don't resonate with them, unfortunately. The systems that are from Oriental philosophies like Buddhism, like Hinduism, and different I like the way they present stuff, and they're more holistic rather than Abrahamic religions, so I kind of tend to like them more, but I always keep the space for maybe it's something far away and exotic, maybe that's why I like it, but I just like their approach because they don't have this
well, most
narcissistic, right? Like we are humans, we are above everybody else, and we don't care if they're infidel, we can kill them. They always care
Right.
about all living things.
a lot of agnostics lean toward Buddhism
Yeah,
because
because
with Buddhism it's just like
logic.
it's just a form of thought, or
It's
what's the
philosophy,
other one they
exactly.
lean toward?
Yeah.
It's
It's not a
philosophy.
religion. It's a philosophy, and it's more
Yeah,
open-minded.
philosophy,
Yeah,
philosophy,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I don't want to limit myself because if you subscribe to some of these religions, you have to subscribe to all the atrocities they made. And unfortunately, I see in real life that that every single religion says love thy neighbor, but when you look at the believers, unfortunately, what they do
They don't.
least of all is believe thy neighbor. I'm
That's
like,
why we have to be told to love. That's why we're told to love
to me,
because of the atrocities, because of the
to
yes,
me,
we
I
have to
think that
love.
if
And
it,
you would never imagine how much that word love has kept a lot of us from saying certain things, doing certain things, ending up in certain situations. How many of
sure.
us had to forgive somebody we didn't really like, who abused us or who have done other things? But yeah, that word love does resonate because it
Hmm.
doesn't stop people from doing things, but it makes them think for a moment, or it affects their consciousness. That's why
I
the word we
agree.
have to
I
keep
agree.
saying it over and over again.
I'm sure that for many people it works, but like my choice is to make my own choices. And I believe that love is the answer. It doesn't matter who brings that answer. And to me, this is like just
Right.
limitations. Why do I need limitations if I can do it on my own? If I can be a good person, like if I could find love and to, create more good stuff in the world, why would I limit to one religion? So I kind of want to join, like whatever Mendes just said right now. I'm like, oh, this is so much about me. It resonates with me. So it's easier to say that I'm an agnostic, so that way people don't make it's like a word that is not super popular. That's why it's somewhere in the middle, and I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't want to, put myself in any of those boxes because I see that the boxes is step one. If you want to go further, you have to develop over the boxes and learn to break the barriers and fences that you've been creating for so long collectively, because boxes are important. They help to learn at the first stage. But when you get to the next stage, you realize that you don't need boxes. There are no boxes. And there's like, there's no spoon, Neo.
Right.
There's no dichotomy. There's no conflict between religion and science. There's no conflict between man and woman. There's no conflict whatsoever. And when you understand that, you think, wow, why do I need to limit myself if there's something more and I could be with that more and I could, develop even further. So maybe one day we have one life. So if I want to take any religion, convert to any religion, it's never too late, right? We're already born in sin. So why would I, rush or maybe.
No rush.
Yeah.
Or you could just be like Mendez and take in everything.
Yeah, sit on all chairs at the same time, right? Opportunism. What was the word? Funny word. Yeah. I've been accused of that recently as well, which is funny that my friend said, oh, you talked to this guy and he said some bad things about me and you said that you don't like him. And I said, well, yeah, that was my opinion before I kind of knew him. And he's personally good to me. He might be a very, questionable person, but he's good to me. So I take, my use of that. And she's like, oh, I don't believe it. Like you've had like different principles and you were so much for this and for that. I said, I have my bigger goal, and anybody who helps me with that goal is welcomed. Anybody who messes with that is not gonna, succeed, because I know what I'm going to do. And I don't see any conflict between, talking to many people. She said, oh, you're trying to sit on all chairs at the same time. I'm like, yes, if that's what you think, maybe that's what it is. But I'm outside that box as well. I know where I'm going. And if some other people think that I fall into some box, it's their decision. But I said, time will show eventually what's going to happen, because I know where I'm going. And my principles are still there. I just expand them. And, I refuse to have these boxes now, and I'm trying to break the barriers, and that creates creativity, that you start solving same problems with same resources, but very creatively. You start seeing the combinations, and you can start seeing more opportunities, because you don't take just A or B. You can take A, B, both of them, and you have more combinations. It could be A, B or B, A, or maybe A separate from B, or, just A or just B. You have much more combination when you have more elements. So I choose to have more so far.
To the music. I was listening to the music in here. It was nice and mellow and calm.
Yeah,
I was listening to you too, but the music is nice and calming, and in the midst of this place, there is peace. I found peace. I no longer have to look. I no longer have to search. And the music is going along with my thoughts. And I finally found that peace that I was searching for. But for me, that peace is in Christ. And I don't have to look anymore. I don't have to wonder.
I'm so happy for you. I just I love hearing that. I feel your passion, and I'm so happy for you. Maybe it's not the books for me, and I'm a little bit upset. Maybe somewhere I'm jealous because you found it, and that's great. That's what I think that we should do. We should not envy each other. We should support each other and share and celebrate everybody around us. But before we do that, we actually have to work hard to get to that level. I think Altspace is the best example, where the entry level defines the quality of communication. The entry level is so high that when people get into Altspace, it's automatically going to be this open-minded community. This is what I've seen for the last 2 years. And I think it makes me believe that we can take and expand this mindset, because it is now a good time for that. And I'm also willing to spread information for those people who maybe are not ready for this, transition into the next step, where they can learn from each other in a positive way and construct their life in a positive way. And again, I'm limited by my understandings and my beliefs. So yeah, I hope one day I can find some peace that you found. For me, search is more fascinating so far. So everything has its own time.
Yeah, don't rush it. Your relationship with the universe is something that you shouldn't rush.
It is out of time, so there's no need to rush. There's no time. There's no space. It's all, our consciousness. I have personally experienced the relativity of time, that time can stretch. And as I said, our brain, our mind is actually, our consciousness is the way to travel in time, back and forward. And we underestimate that ability, but I think that just fathoming yourself is so immensely interesting that you start believing in God, because everything is just so elegant, so interesting. And by learning the world, like more about the world around me, I show respect to any higher being, whether it's God or consciousness or Brahman or anything. Or maybe myself, who knows? Maybe I'm part of godly energy, and maybe my soul is like part of his creation. So I don't know. You can put it in many different ways, but I know what I feel, and I know what I have. Yeah.
All right. Okay. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, thanks. It was a very nice finale of our event. It's 8 o'clock for me, so it's like official time of closing the event. But it's always open for conversation. You can also I'm reminding you about the link. Please leave your contacts if you want to continue with us, or get any information about where we are going to move. Maybe it's going to be spatial, probably, but we are working on creating something more than just like a little community, and hopefully we could be useful for many of participants of the community, and you could be useful for somebody who's looking for support and help and encouragement and a lot of stuff. As I said, so many people who didn't enter this level yet, they need help. They need I don't think it's help, it's just manifesting yourself and just being a good example for somebody.
To see your experience of it.
Yeah, and start thinking about some stuff. Yeah, maybe they can do that as well, like being passionate, doing what they love, and spreading the information about what they are passionate about. And that's going to be a better world, in my opinion. I'm going to stop the recording. Yeah. We have some recordings of the many events that we had before on YouTube, our YouTube channel. So, yeah, you can check this conversation as well.